wanted to get started. The other people will find us along the way. So what we're going to do, because I think we still have new faces in the room, it is important that we know each other in order to, they call it breaking the ice, so that we know who is in the room, so that we can interact a little more freely. So the friend here is taking a cup of tea, so maybe I will start from the back, the very back. Just your name and anything that you feel like telling us in a very brief
Okay,
way.
Good morning.
Yes.
My name still remains Vincent Ugal. I was here yesterday, so it's not a new face in the room.
Yes.
From UNESCO. Still, I'm happy to be here. Okay. Thank you.
There is another person at the very back. The other side. Before we come this way.
Yes, morning everyone. I'm Mary Apio, and I'm happy to be here.
Okay.
This is the Chief Rapporteur.
Yes, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Omo Amos. I work with the Unity Task Force at Secretariat. I am so happy to be here to learn with UNESCO.
Thank you. And welcome.
I am very vocal. I don't know, I think everybody is hearing me.
Yeah, if you can, that's fine.
Thank you very much.
With the
my name is Christine Aguti. I work with Uganda National Institute of Education Secretariat. And very happy for the opportunity that I've been given to be a part of this.
Thank you and welcome. Sorry, we're going to bombard you despite still having a cup of tea.
Good morning, everybody.
Yes, good morning.
I'm Andrew Wilfred Olwalo.
Yes, you're welcome. Don't want to tell us a little more? Yes. We just need to let, yes, we're doing it so that everybody is on board.
Thank you. My name is George Sizom, a member of the Task Force Unity.
Thank you. Welcome once again.
I'm Beatrice Biakutaga, member Education Service Commission.
Thank you very much. And you know, when you are here, we
Hajat
feel more
Aida
confident.
Nambusi, Chibedi, Principal Chibuliko PTC.
Thank you very much for giving us the time, Madam Principal. We know how busy you people can be.
Thank you so much. Good morning once again, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chomuhendo Florence, Minister of Education and Sports, Department of Teacher Education Training and Involvement.
Thank you.
I'm glad to be here.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kibuka Marin, NTC Mubende, and I'm happy to be here, eager to learn.
Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Francis Katerega, Principal NTC Mubende.
Yes.
Thank you.
Not Katerega, Muterega. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. My name is Edward Kansime. I work in the School of Education, Makerere University. I'm part of the team working on quality assurance in teacher education.
Yes, thank you very much.
Good morning, colleagues. I'm called Josephine Sayete, School of Education, Makerere University, still part of this team.
Thank you. And I will close with myself, John Okirore, a part of the quality assurance team. Retired but not tired. That's why I'm standing here. Thank you very much. And when I have a role model in the room who says he's retired 14 years earlier than me, it gives me the encouragement that retirement doesn't mean the end of the road. Thank you very much. So what we are going to do, let's look at our program once again, day 2. Day 2. Day 2, who have already registered, what we are going to do is to do a recap of day one activities. Then we shall have a presentation on the quality assurance monitoring and evaluation framework, and also look at some sample generic assessment tools. After that, we shall have a brief plenary session on the M&E and the tools. I think we've already had our tea, so that is a health break. I hope we can push towards lunch with the overview of the QA pilot process. I think Dr. Josephine will tell us what we did to pilot as a foundation for the next presentations from the colleges. So we shall have the presentation and domestication on presentation and domestication of quality assurance from the piloting institutions, starting with the Chibuli Core PTC, then NTC Movende, and then in the afternoon we shall have Arua Core PTC, and then we shall have reactions and a plenary discussion, and we call it a day. In preparation for tomorrow, because the lessons, the issues that we raised today will inform tomorrow's discussion on how to roll out. As you all know, this was something piloted and validated by stakeholders. So we already have something that we think was validated by the stakeholders. So we just need to get lessons on how it was domesticated at institution level in order to see how we move forward. So having said that, we could look at, we can get a recap of what we did yesterday. We didn't assign a particular person to do this because that would have simplified it for us if there was somebody assigned to do that for us. So what we're going to do is basically to remind ourselves a few things. What we did, anybody maybe can tell us what they remember most from the day. What do you remember most, or what touched you best? I think that's what we could say. What lesson did you take from yesterday's presentation? For those who were here, something that touched you, that you liked most. It was a flat day. Nothing stood out. Yes. Madam Chomohendo seems to have something. Wabuan, yeah. You seem to be itching to say something.
I think I'm old enough.
She's a Msomesa, so.
And by virtue of being a teacher is supposed to be audible. So with or without, I can speak audibly.
Yes.
So what I loved most was about the findings of the research that was presented. I actually realized that much of what was recommended and found out exists in our teacher training institutions, and hoping that if we can take good keen interest in them, then we can be able to improve on the quality assurance of our teacher training institutions. I submit.
Yeah, thank you very much. We had the study and the findings were reported, and she's saying they were spot on. They captured the real picture on the ground. So if we take a keen note, we can make a difference in improving quality assurance. Yes, the principal.
Thank you so much. The first one that took me was about the first recommendation of the findings of the rolling out to other colleges.
Yes.
This one, to me, it was very key and very important because when we're chosen as pilot institutions, the QA has really helped us so much, as you will see in our presentation. It is very important, and I think as it goes in other colleges, it will help us improve a lot in our day-to-day activities. Two, also in the presentations of Dr. Byakutaga, what took me so much was about the setting of standards and the remaining focused to achieving the set goals. This is also very key. If we are to move these institutions to another level, standards have to be set. And two, we need to remain focused. In many cases, standards are set and people are not focused. And because people are not focused, you end up not achieving. And you remain where you were before. But the most important part here is to remain focused, to become committed. Those two things will give you whatever you want. And probably motivation of the stakeholders. Thank you.
So the principal thinks that rollout is actually very important because they've tried it. Some results are showing at college. So if we roll out, very important. And of course, as a manager, when she talks about remaining focused, setting standards and staying focused, that's a control function of management, really. If we set the roadmap, then we can actually be there. Any other? Yes, Doctor.
Thank you very much. I also liked the focusing on maybe strengthening internal quality assurance systems so that we begin from within before we look at the external. Yeah. What is it that we can do to make sure that we have quality in everything that we do to meet the required standards? I also like the recommendations from the study, you know, about school practice, the curriculum, you know, adjusting the curriculum to make sure that it meets the needs of the people. So all those were good recommendations, and even school practice, giving it more time, at least 12 weeks as compared to the 4, 3, because all those issues affect quality.
Okay. I think those are very important points. I was particularly touched with the school practice because we had some disturbing issues about, there's things we take for granted because you went through it in a certain way, you thought things still work that way. But also, going to these schools, one thing maybe I could share from my experience recently is that when these students are sent to schools, the senior teachers do not only retire, but these students are given a task of providing notes to the students. It is actually a note-giving exercise so that the senior teachers can then come to revise. I think that changes the whole idea about school practice. I think, I don't know whether it's a privatization or a competition for first grades or things like that, but schools are doing very funny things. So if you are reduced to a note giving, and yet we are saying, as you do school practice, you should encourage students to take notes, to make notes, not to take notes. But actually, they only try to do it when you are present. But actually, I think that's a very big challenge we need to improve. Yes.
Thank you. What touched me was that quality teacher translates quality education. That's very important. And that it also promotes lifelong learning. And that we need harmonization at all levels in order to achieve the vision and mission that we are anticipating to achieve. I think where it was not very clear that whereas structures, that is Senate, Council, and all these other structures, the challenge has been the levels at which we are considering this. I think we need to consider also right from the primary school levels, because that's how do we assess them, primary, secondary, and consequently the university level. I think our assessment was closer to do with the university than these other structures.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Those are very good points of reflection, harmonization, the structures, and so forth. Mr. Principal,
Sorry
you have
for
anything?
coming back.
Yes, please. Oh, yes.
About school practice.
Yes.
These schools, this is very funny. These schools around here in Kampala no longer want our students to teach. When they teach, the students go there, they tell them to sit and they only teach when we are there. So this one does not give these students enough practice.
Yes.
So what we have decided to do for us as in Kibuli, we have decided to take our students now in those other, in Wakiso, outside the Kampala district, because for them, they allow students to teach. But these ones in Kampala, the students sit, they only teach when you are there, because for them, they want results. So this is another funny part
We hope
that
the
we are
curriculum-
finding in these schools.
Hope the new curriculum might change a few things away from the competition for marks. Yeah. Kindly greet the people. Yeah, welcome, sir.
My name is David Twebaze. I work with the Uganda National Commission for UNESCO. Yeah, thank you so much for the work you're doing, our lead consultants. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. I just wanted to make a comment about what our principal was saying. And I will start with a simple question. The role of our demonstration schools. What happened? Because she's at Kibuli. Yeah, I'm sure Kibuli has a demonstration school. Aha. Can we really revisit the role of these demonstration schools? Because they are under Ministry of Education and Sports. That role should be redefined so that our student teachers are not rejected. Because school practice is one way that really prepares them for work, real work. And therefore the teacher council should look at this critically, the role of these demonstration schools. Then the other thing is about our education system. Because the emphasis is about examinations. And when these schools are preparing their candidates for examinations, they will not allow these student teachers. They will not allow them. They'll say, these ones are coming to waste our time. So our education system. Are we training our learners for life, or we are training them for examinations? I think we should look at that one critically. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Very important point. Let me allow the other principal first, then I come back to you. Answer this one, okay.
With us, our demonstration is okay. But of course, during school practice, a general one, you can't take all of them in one school. You have to distribute others in other schools. For our demonstration, we have no problem. We use it so much, even in other things. Even when we have Chambogo students, we use it. They have no problem. Even when we are preparing students, we use the demonstration for demonstration lessons. They have no problem. But the problem comes in when we are distributing other students during the school practice, the general one. These other ones, they don't know this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Cloro, and members. I have 2 points to which actually touched me, which we discussed yesterday. The issue of partnering with sister institutions, especially for the NTCs in case, can partner, as we are doing, with the neighboring secondary schools. And the PTCs, I think, can copy this, because also we talked about that one, and it is a good practice to ensure continuous school practice and skills development. Then also, what touched me was resource mobilization, because quality is in our hands, and we as leaders have the responsibility to ensure quality. But we saw that the resource envelope to sustain quality is not forthcoming from outside. And therefore, we need to develop it from within. So we put heads together and see how best we can mobilize these resources to make sure that at the institutional level, we are able to ensure the quality we are discussing about here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Principal. There is another principal that we could listen to, then I come to Doctor. There is another principal online. Please, you are welcome, Dr. Wambi. Dr. Wambi is online. He has been following us since yesterday. We thank you for that keen interest in issues of quality. So kindly make your contribution.
In the presentation of the activities we have had yesterday, the issue of school object teachers cutting across from primary to university came up so much, and that one touched me. Dr. Sizomu somehow came up with a solution of blended school practice, but I think it was not well explored. Maybe there was no time for the members to have time to discuss. What I looked at Dr. Sizomu's solution being applicable, being workable, based on what we are facing right now in the field in terms of inadequate time for school practice. I look at it as one of the hybrid strategies, and I think it's the way to go. Because even when Professor Ezra was talking about reprogramming so that his institution is good for school practice and different times, that one makes it matters worse. Because the institutions are many, the population is high, every university like to push students to school practice, and the regular teacher alone is spending half time with their students. And I've also discovered that most of the sensitive schools have even become very skeptical. They feel like neglecting some of the students, depending on which university. And those little schools like Indiana, Bingo, Garayaza are very, very selective. And yet our students have to go for school practice. And we have discovered that the time is not adequate. That's why the quality is going down, because somebody who has practiced for only maybe
2 weeks.
So I'd like to get back to the solution that Professor Zumi brought, and if we get enough time, we may not escape online SP, blended SP.
Doctor, can you,
get enough time
Doctor, 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 can you just help us? Can you help us recap what the solution was from Mr. Sizomu? What was your take home from his suggestion? Just to help us recap, because this is a recap session.
Does it any time to go for school practice like we normally plan at a particular time to go for school practice? And we are discovering that that time is really inadequate. So Dr. Sizomu was talking about
Okay.
online.
Okay.
I know he has more information about it, but the reason I picked it up, I saw that it saves a lot of time, and it's one of the hybrid learning strategies that we are emphasizing in as far as the current situation is concerned. Because the competition is increasing. Even right now, they talk, more universities are coming forward, and they have that component of education, and they will continue to push students to SP. Where shall we put them? When other schools are even having started investing in them, and they don't have the time because they have to panic and go back and look at them and the exams. So SP is almost done for granted. And you know what it means when it comes to the issue of pedagogy. That's why the quality is challenging. Dr. Jakutaga rightly said that there are many stakeholders who find them on the one state. What type of teachers are you producing these days? I think such comments are coming as a result of having teachers who are so much wanting in the areas of pedagogy.
Thank you very much. I think you have made the recap very clearly. Thank you for staying online and taking keen interest in what we are doing. Kindly continue. Thank you.
Okay, thank
so,
you very
Doctor.
much. I just also wanted to add on to what Doctor has said. And as far as Mr. Sizwami's submission yesterday is concerned, I remember he talked about technology, which is very important. We have to move with the global trends, you know. How are we faring? If we are to say we are producing teachers of quality, are our teachers adaptable to changing situations? If now we are to go with ICT and so on, how far are we going in as far as teacher training is concerned? So we need to think about that if we are going to improve on the quality of the teachers that we produce. Then I wanted to look at the issue of demonstration schools. Well, I don't know whether yesterday we discussed them, but it has come up today. The demonstration schools, I don't know whether NTCs have demonstration schools. Do they? If they don't, I don't know how they do it.
He says they have identified partner schools in the community to engage as the demonstration schools.
Partner schools, yeah, because he was appealing even to the PTCs to do the same if they are not doing it. But
and I think the argument for PTCs is that the numbers have grown. So one school might be overwhelmed, so you need maybe to expand through partner.
Yeah, that's where I was
schools.
going to. With the demonstration schools, I remember when we were beginning TDMS, and we advised that every school, primary school, is a demonstration school. There is no need on focusing on one to say, this is my demonstration school. Why? Let every school around you be a demonstration school. Do what you do with this so-called demonstration school with the rest of the schools within, so that they all benefit from what you're doing there. Let them be training centers. So we can have as many demonstration schools as possible as long as they are within vicinity and they can be easily accessed. Instead of focusing on only one, and yet you may be having so many students to train, you can take them to any of those nearest schools and you do your demonstration from there. So I just wanted to add on to that, that we shouldn't focus on only one school as the demonstration school and everything must be done in that one school. We could use as many schools as possible as long as they are within reach. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I just want to build on what the doctor has said, and that is very important. But I think it's a matter of policy now. The Minister of Education and Sport should pick it up as a matter of policy, so that the schools around a university that is producing teachers
it has implications on fuel, logistics, picking, dropping and picking.
Yes, should be picked up.
Which might be a budgetary.
I think
because
in
a demonstration school, you walk there and back, but now if it's a satellite area, then there's some logistics involved.
Yes, I think we should pick it up as a recommendation.
As a policy issue.
Yes. The other question was Makerere College School started as a demonstration school. I don't know the linkage now. Because I trained there, I was in Makerere and Chambogo College. I was in Makerere training down, School of Education, 3 years. I don't remember our professors taking us down there to do some. I don't remember.
They're here, they can tell us.
So I think that linkage should be revisited as well. Thank you.
I totally agree that it needs to be revisited. And yesterday I had a casual chat. Of course, that's what we are also observing, the School of Education. I had a casual chat with our former dean, who is the former chair board of governors, Marcos. And the truth is, Makerere College School is open for use. It is, I would say it is us who are not going there. But Makerere College School is open for use, and those of us who have utilized it, like colleagues who teach geography, they have used the geography rooms, they have tried to do demonstration on how geography can be taught using those Marcos students as demo students. So it goes back, I think, also to us not using it, but also us not being aware that it is something that can be used. And also us not being aware of it as something that, of the how it can be used. Yes, thank you.
Very good. I think since this was a recap, it is good to have had good ideas shared, and I think a few things are standing out. So maybe at this point, I allow me to call on the next presenter, who is the current speaker, to actually give us a presentation on the M&E framework. Yeah, you can do it there. Yes.
And I would alert all of us to be careful. This military one is more slippery.
It's good, is a gymnast. You saw what happened yesterday. If it was some people like us would have fallen down. But he was very good. He survived it. Thank you very much. I think this is very glassy, especially the decoration here. It's very glassy. So thank you very much for the recap, and I think that has helped our new colleagues also to come on board, that you appreciate what we talked of yesterday. And we can now talk from the same page. But I think the quality and school practice are highly tied together. And the concern, particularly the higher you go, especially university level, that's where the challenges are, because universities are autonomous. Each one of them is creating their own program, and we cannot be sure that the quality is assured across the board. You have 60 universities, each one offering an education program they have designed and implemented on their own. I think that's where TTED, is it TTED? TTED or something like that. TTED becomes, you need to become a real prefect. You need more facilitation to run around and harmonize us together. So let's listen to the M&E framework and the diagnostic tool. You're welcome. The microphone is here, but I know you are naturally endowed.
Yes, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and I welcome you to this presentation. As a reminder to colleagues who joined this morning, this work started long ago in 2018 with a situation analysis of quality assurance in teacher education in Uganda. And then it went forward to developing the quality assurance framework for initial teacher education, that was 2019, and then developing It went to developing the quality assurance guidelines, monitoring and evaluation tools, and generic diagnostic tools. And these were validated in 2020. After the validation, we went into piloting, and 3 teacher training institutions volunteered to pilot this, but also their selection was informed, other than them consenting that let us pilot, it was also informed by the results of the situation analysis. NTC Mubende, Chibuli Koa PTC, and Arua Koa PTC. So today we are here to, one, raise awareness of what this whole thing is about, and we started yesterday. And also the colleges that participated in the pilot will share with us the findings, and our principals in the colleges will also share with us the experiences from the administrative point of view, with the hope of laying a firm foundation for a possible rollout. The focus is strengthening internal quality assurance within the teacher training institutions, so that it supplements or augments the efforts done by external quality assurance agencies. And the whole focus, as we said yesterday, is about designing and building a culture of internal quality assurance. Because we believe quality assurance is supposed to be designed and built so that it is a culture before it is inspected. So inspection is important, but we also need to design it and build it so that it is a culture of an institution. So yesterday we discussed we gave an overview of the quality assurance guidelines, and we shared them on our emails. I hope we took time to look at them holistically, and that's very important. So today we are to discuss the monitoring and evaluation framework. That monitoring and evaluation framework is based on the 7 areas of focus. If you looked at it in details, 7 areas of focus. And we picked the indicators right from the guidelines. The column of the indicators in the guidelines was just lifted and placed here. Okay? And what we added is the goal, the strategic objectives, the outcomes, the key outputs, what would it be at baseline, and then the target at 2 years, 5 years, means of verification, frequency, responsible entity, risks and assumptions. So I'm going to use this example, which is got from research activities and outreach. Research and outreach activities. It is just an example. You will get to the real document and look at what there is on the other, all the 7 focus areas. But just this is an example to guide us as we read content of the other 7 areas of focus. The goal here is to ensure all teacher training institutions undertake action research and outreach activities to inform teacher education practices. That's the goal. The strategic objective is to mainstream action research and outreach activities into teacher training to improve quality of teaching and learning. And the outcome is action research and outreach activities are mainstreamed in teacher education programs to improve quality of teaching, or quality of training. The key output is staff carry out action or classroom and collaborative research to improve knowledge and pedagogical practice. And the indicator is the number of research reports, reflective journals, and other publications coming from an institution. Because the whole issue is the teacher training institution must have staff ready to undertake action research and outreach activities. So the number of publications or reports, reflective journals coming from that institution is the indicator. The baseline has, as at the start of institutionalization of the quality assurance guidelines, we expect institutions to do a needs assessment, and within that, they should be able to capture the level of research output. That will be the percentage as at baseline. The target at 2 years, we projected 10% improvement from baseline, and at 5 years, 25%. The means of verification, the number of publications by staff, number of research reports and reflective journals, and number of collaborations that the institutions are having. Because now the way to go is collaborative research. The frequency is annually. The responsible entities, Ministry of Education and Sports, departments and agencies like the National Teacher Council, TETD, DES, Education Service Commission, National Council for Higher Education, appointment boards, boards of governors, governing councils, principals, risks and assumptions. We made the following assumptions: that one, the lecturers and tutors have capacity. They have capacity to do research and outreach. They have capacity. The second assumption is all stakeholders are supportive. And the other one is their resources, but also their incentives for research. If research publications are very important in teacher training institutions across the country, for someone probably to ascend the professional ladder, that would be an incentive, and probably other incentives. In universities, it's important to ascend the academic ladder. You must do research. So if there are no incentives, it will just end on paper. So there should be incentives for people to do research. So that is an example. You'll check the other areas of focus, and you'll find something similar. And so that is the interpretation of it. We proceed. Now, we also came up with diagnostic tools which institutions would domesticate, and these were validated together with the guidelines and the M&E framework 2020. So these tools are divided into two broad categories. The first category is for individual assessment, because as Dr. Byakutaga told us yesterday, quality assurance starts with an individual, to the department, to the institution. Yes, individual. So the first set of tools are for individual self-assessment, individual teacher trainers, all individual leaders. As you can see, the last tool is about assessment tool for leadership in teacher training institutions. But when we flip into it, you will see the leader is saying, I, doing a reflective practice on herself or himself. And same with teaching and learning, research and outreach, professionalism and ethical conduct, self-assessment tool. The other ones are for the general institution, as we shall reach there. But let's look at an example of one of the tools for... Okay, fine. Before we get there, no, just flip. Skip this other next slide. Just go. Now, this is an example of a self-assessment tool for leaders. Now, these standards, this side, were lifted right from the guidelines. Now, these performance indicators was a twist of what was in the guidelines to make it a self-assessment. So I clearly display the institution's vision, mission statements and core values to guide actions of all stakeholders, and the leader scores himself or herself across the 4 levels. We shall see in the last slide, before I go there, don't go there, there is a tool which is a rubric which guides this person. What is level 4? In what circumstance can I put a tick under level 4? Under what circumstance can I put a tick under level 3 or level 2 or level 1? So it is not guesswork and say, for me I'm level 4. What is level 4? So there is a rubric in the last slide that guides utilization of all these tools. So the second one is I make sure policies that the governing councils or boards ratify meet the minimum standards in the national legal frameworks. I have staff who have the necessary qualifications, experience and commitment to higher teacher education standards. I have staff with effective communication and interpersonal skills. Now, the tool goes on, but the whole focus, if you look at that tool, it didn't cover everything because everything is too much. So we just selected a few to give a glimpse. Now, take us back, Edwin. So, the general institution assessment tools are based on the 7 areas of focus. Minimum standards, to what extent is the now institution adhering to the minimum standards we benchmarked from the National Council for Higher Education. Governance and administration programs, enabling environment, teaching and learning, research and outreach activities, professionalism and ethical conduct. Now, the last tool is a generic tool for assessing implementation of CHUA activities based on the Deming cycle. The planning, the implementation, the replanning, and redoing. So, this last tool here, the generic one, is used no matter the activity. Whatever activity you are going to do, was there planning, the indicators there in the tool. Implementation, how was it done? The indicators there in the tool. Was there a dissemination of whatever came out? Was there replanning? Was there redoing? So this last tool here was guided by the Deming cycle, which Dr. Josephine is about to present. You'll see it. So let's take an example of one of the generic tools. Just go, that one. So this is an institutional assessment tool on governance. The other one was self-assessment, which is being used by the leader. But here, it's a tool sent out to the staff. It's a data collection tool because quality assurance involves data collection, data analysis, data utilization to improve practice. So, look here. The institution's vision, mission statements, and core values are clearly displayed to guide actions of all stakeholders. Up-to-date certificates of accreditation are in place. Policies that the governing councils or boards ratify meet the minimum standards in the national legal frameworks. So these kind of things, and hence whoever gets the tool scores the institution along those 4 levels. Next slide. Okay. Now, what guides the person to score is this rubric here. What do you base on to say it's now level 4? What do you base on to say it's now level 4? Policies are documented and ratified. They are fully implemented and aligned to the legal frameworks. But look at level 3. Policies are documented and ratified. Some are implemented, not aligned with the legal frameworks. So the authenticity goes on reducing up to level 1, where we have some policies are documented and are marginally implemented. So there is paperwork but no work done on ground. So that kind of analogy. So if an institution takes this up, it is expected that all the people in the committees, the CHUA committees, and whatever structures they are coming up with, understand this whole tool and is being utilized accordingly. I thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Edward. Can we give him a clap? I think, as usual, he's very eloquent and very good in presentation. Any reactions? Any reactions from members from what you have seen? Did we share this as well yesterday? Yeah, we shared with colleagues, so maybe some of you had a glimpse at them. Any reactions, any comments? A comment doesn't have to be negative. It could be an appreciation. It could be, but it could also be the other way around. But what I would like to say is that when we developed this, we tested, and I think the last activity we had was a stakeholders meeting at, was it, which hotel was this? There was a stakeholders meeting to validate these tools. Yes. Thank you very much. So we are getting reactions, and I think Dr. Wambi wants to go first. Thank you for the keen interest, and we are really happy for your participation online. Just go ahead. Dr. Wambi?
Thank you so much, Dr. Florence. And thank you so much, everybody, for the presentation. If I have followed well, I would like to share an experience on action research and outreach. And I would like to inform you that as we focus on mainstreaming action research and outreach, my experience is that the outreach component is the fair of care in PTCs where under the TDM's arrangement. You know very well that the coordinating centers are used as the outreach arm of the core PTC, and the CCTs also where for community engagement. If I follow the way, but I would like to give an experience of to make ourselves ready for something in the field. The action research component is very weak in terms of its inclusion in the budget at PTC level, and the competence of tutors and lecturers to do research also require a lot of serious retooling because the attitude is low. I don't know why. Maybe it's as a result of some background, but the moment you talk about research, the attitude goes very low. So there is a lot on research that leaves, that requires us to get prepared as we work with the colleagues in the PTCs and NTCs when it comes to research. I introduced a research and publication component at NTC Cavalry, but I'm struggling with lecturers to respond. So I just wanted to make ourselves ready and aware that there is already a problem of attitude, and we need to get prepared as we emphasize and focus on the issue of mainstreaming action research and outreach. I submit.
together, we put this, the quality assurance guidelines, monitoring and evaluation framework, self-diagnostic tools, we called it the toolkit. So when we say the toolkit, we are referring to these three things, which Edward discussed the last two in the last few minutes. So it is this toolkit which was actually piloted in the teacher training institutions, the 3 teacher training institutions. But the real piloting was they picked on starting with quality assurance guidelines. But to check their progress, they also had to look at the monitoring framework. The pilot process took place like this. It was phased. We had phases, steps. The first step of the pilot process involved 3 things. First, we needed to discuss, engage stakeholders, key stakeholders, including Ministry of Education and UNESCO, the funders. Reason, they needed to understand what we were doing, how we were planning to do it, where we were going to do it, and how we are going to do it. So those initial meetings included that because we needed their input and we needed to move together as a team. Now, we needed to understand what the colleges were doing as far as internal quality assurance was concerned. The only way to get that information was to do a baseline survey. So we developed quality assurance data tools, but the development of the tools, what we captured in those questionnaires that we used to collect data from the colleges was guided by the themes in the quality assurance guidelines, which were shared yesterday. We picked out those themes and included them in the questionnaires. But when we did this pilot, that was also the time when there was COVID, so the colleges were actually closed. So everything had to be done online. So even the baseline information was collected online. So we sent the questionnaires to the colleges, the 3 colleges, and they responded to these questionnaires online. We analyzed the results from the questionnaires, and we actually discussed with the colleges. Let me first take you here. These are the key findings of the baseline from the 3 colleges. Every college was doing something in terms of internal quality assurance, and they felt it was sufficient. There was, all the 3 colleges, they were doing something, which was very good. However, they had no written standards, no defined structures. For example, yes, quality assurance is everybody's business. And that is really, really very important. And it has to be everybody's business. But we must have a point, a contact point, where all the businesses end up. If I have done my part, there has to be a place where I need to report what I have done. So that at the end of the day, it is not really, everybody's business has a risk of being nobody's business. Yes. If there is no one who says, now, what is happening here? And no formal collection, analysis, and utilization of data to inform decisions. For example, every college, the tutors clock. The clocking could be by just writing when you have arrived. I don't know if they write when they leave, okay? But then
the question is, what do you do with that data? We go to class every time we take attendance. But what do we do with our data of attendance? So it's like formalities. I'm not sure whether we really go and check and see this student has been missing for the last 2 weeks. Where is this student? Sometimes do I have that time to look for my student who is missing for the last 2 weeks? But that should be the value of our data as attendance data. So that was what was happening in the college. Now, after we got a glimpse of what was happening, we then went to phase 2, which was establishment, orientation, and strengthening of quality assurance systems, practices, and mechanisms in the 3 colleges. This was also done online, and we did this through holding webinars, online meetings, with the team from the 3 colleges. During that time, we tasked the colleges to reflect on their internal quality assurance mechanisms. They discussed and they came up with thoughts of what they felt was good, what they felt there was a weakness, and then at that point, we also shared with them the quality assurance guidelines that we actually shared with you yesterday. And we asked them to look at these generic guidelines and customize these generous guidelines so that they can use them to try to see how they can improve where they felt there were weaknesses. So we asked the colleges to actually domesticate the toolkit, which they did. And the domestication was in such a manner that every college actually decided to focus on what they felt was the most pressing issue that they needed to look into. But at the end of it, they domesticated the whole tool. The whole guidelines were domesticated to tweak them to address their problems. So that process was ongoing. However, because it was a webinar, it took place for 3 days, we couldn't finish it. So they had to retreat and complete the tasks while they were now at their respective colleges. They could have also held online meetings. Some met physically, depending on how the college staffing and where they were staying. Some had blended meetings. Now, when they were doing that, we also tasked them to actually identify quality assurance committee members and look into what roles they would play as quality assurance committee members. So they constituted their internal quality assurance committee members, and they defined the tasks that the committee members would do. That then took us to phase 3. Now that they had customized the guidelines to their needs in the colleges, they had constituted the internal quality assurance committee, and they had defined the roles of this quality assurance committee. We then asked them to pilot the domesticated toolkit by agreeing in the different colleges what they felt was their priority and what they felt they could address, given that the colleges were partially open. And hence the 3 colleges picked different things to start with, depending on what each college felt was the most pressing thing. So the colleges went ahead to pilot the domesticated toolkit. To do that, they drew plans, and then they designed activities to implement those plans. And they shared with us. It was during lockdown, so our meetings were online. So they get back to us after 1 week or so. We discuss, and we met each college online independently. And we had one general meeting, which was also all the 3 colleges. So they went into the pilot of the domesticated toolkit. Meanwhile, during that time, as we were doing this from phase 1, phase 2, we also had progress reports and updates with the stakeholders. We didn't stop at engagement in the planning point only, but we also got back. For example, we had meetings with the Ministry of Education, specifically the teacher department. In those meetings, we would discuss how the pilot process was progressing.
Recording in progress.
And I remember in one of those meetings, as we discussed what the colleges were piloting, the issue of now that each college is doing a different activity, how are you going to monitor their progress? And after that discussion, if you come back here, after that discussion, we agreed that we develop a generic tool, and that tool was based on the Deming cycle, which is actually a cycle based on assessing continuous progress. If you double click on that hyperlink, the hyperlink on phase 3, double click. It's not responding. Okay. No, it's not there. Okay. Then I can first maybe minimize this. But you have to stay there because I have to find it. I moved the presentation. This one here. Show that one. So that is the extend. Go here. This one. Yeah, it has to this one. Yeah. Show it to duplicate. Okay. So in that discussion, when we were tasked that we needed to come up with some tool to actually track the progress of this activity, we then came up with this monitoring tool, which we shared with the colleges. The monitoring tool was based on the Deming cycle, which is a continuous, a cycle that helps you to track continuous progress for improvement. You want to see how you're progressing, but at the same time, you want to embed improvement in what you're doing. So they had to plan, implement the plans, make observations in the implementation from implementation process, and then they replan and go back to implementing. So that 4-step cycle was what the colleges were following, so that if your focus was on improving your infrastructure in your college, you had to plan your activities on how you would improve it, implement your plans for improving, look at how your improvement is taking place, and then go back to replan if need be, and get back to continue with the process. So that is what the colleges were doing, and we shared them with this tool, and they used this tool to actually keep monitoring how their pilot process was progressing. Thank you. No, stay there. Yes. Now, after some time into the pilot, we were free to get to the colleges. They opened up. The country was opened up. So that gave us an opportunity to actually go and visit the colleges physically. And when we went for these support visits, we sat with the Quality Assurance Committee members. They took us through what they were doing. They showed us what they had done. We discussed what challenges they were finding, and shared together what could actually perhaps be a solution to overcome the problem. For example, in one of the colleges, it was during lockdown. So for them, their priority was to try and launch online learning. But they were grappling with attendance issues. The learners, the lecturer, the tutor starts to teach, and you have a class of 50 and probably you only have 10 or 20 students attending. So that was their biggest challenge. So when we discussed with them, some came up with the idea to say, but such and such a college is also doing online learning, but they are not having these problems. Their attendance is okay. So we agreed that maybe what they could do is to benchmark, get to that college and try to understand how come their online learning lessons, they are doing well. What is it that they are doing differently from what this other college is doing? So they volunteers got to contact the other college, and they got back to us. And one of the things that they pointed out was the other college was tracking their students. So they would make calls to the students early enough. And the students are given a timetable when the online lesson would take place. And they give time for the students to locate network. They got back to us and gave us that information. And when they did that, their attendance, online attendance, improved. And the next step that we are thinking, the other college, I think, had a platform. They had their own platform, which for them, they also thought the administration should do. So those are the kinds of discussions that we would have when we go for support visits. Then that pushed us, after that, we then decided to see, okay, in the baseline, this is the information that we got. So that they have, now that they have had an intervention, has anything changed? So we went back to the end-line assessment. We did the end-line assessment, and we wanted to find out what could have changed. And here are the findings of the end-line assessment. So we collected the data. Again, we repeated to collect we used the same tool, and we collected the same kind of information. But our next analysis meant that we focused our attention to those themes which the colleges piloted. That's what we focused. And in the baseline, the colleges had rated themselves very highly because they were doing something. In all the aspects, most of the aspects, the colleges were doing something. And in the baseline, they had rated themselves very highly, implying that they felt they were actually, what they were doing was sufficient. But in the end line, the ratings declined, implying that the teacher educators realized, although they were doing something, they still had gaps. Which gaps they needed to address, which is something very good because quality assurance is continuous improvement. So if you are at level A, after some time, you should try to work hard to climb to level A+. If you are starting from level C, try to strive to move towards level B. So we are very happy to notice this kind of trend. So they started to collect data, use that data to make decisions. For example, online attendance was very small, few students. That was very good information. So they had to think, why is it that our learners are not online? And they had to make a decision. They had to research and find out, why are these people succeeding? What are they doing differently? Which is actually something very good. I take you back. The last part was now dissemination. The dissemination was in two phases. They did college-based dissemination, where they shared the success stories of the Quality Assurance Committee with the rest of the members of the college, because quality assurance is everybody's business. So the stakeholders, other members of the college who were not necessarily Quality Assurance Committee members, had to be informed of what the college had, the Quality Assurance College Committee had done and how they had progressed so that they could also get on board. Then we documented those stories from the beginning of the process up to the point when they were now disseminating. And we agreed that these stories were good enough to be shared at a national level. So there was a national dissemination workshop, which took place November, if I remember well. And there we had more stakeholders, where the three colleges shared their success stories, the lessons they had learned and documented, and we actually were more interested in those lessons. And those experiences is what we want to take to the next level, which is the rollout. Thank you very much.
Another round of applause. She has done a very good job. And you can see the level of ownership of the process. She can talk and confidently give us all every detail. Thank you very much, Doctor. Now, time is running out. We need to agree. I think let's just get like 2 questions only. Let's restrict this to 2 questions. If you have 2 questions, let's ask a doctor 2 questions only. Then we go to presentations from the colleges. Lunch is closing in here, and yet we need to hear those stories. But let's have just two reactions. May not be questions, but just 2 reactions. People need a warm-up. They've been seated too long. Maybe we stand up for a warm-up. Yes, let's warm up. Let's stand up and get a small warm-up. Let's do a warm-up first, then. Doctor, wait a bit. Thank you very much. There is one participant who is seated. She didn't kill. I think she needs to come in front and she has to come here and kill it for us. Okay, thank you very much. That was wonderful. So I think in the interest of time, let's see. Yes, okay, there are two. There is Wambi online and then.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for the presentation. Mine is on that work plan that you projected. It should have an action matrix at the end of it. An action matrix for the previous actions. Previous meeting, follow-up actions, and what was done should be captured. So that there's evidence of work being done. Thank you.
We should present it in the form of a matrix. Thank you very much. Dr. Wambi, kindly come on board.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank Dr.
Wambi.
Josephine. Yes, I would like to thank Dr. Josephine for the presentation. You know, Dr. Josephine became a little interesting at the beginning of her presentation because she asked a question, why are we bothered with these issues of quality assurance? And I would like to struggle to provide an answer that I know very well that when quality in teacher education is compromised, then our education is definitely left to the dogs. We shall be seemingly beaten flat. But my question to Doctor is, how many people feel bothered about this quality in the system? That's my question really, because even in the room right now, I see very few people. And I don't know whether we have many people having a conversation about why we are bothered in as far as matters of quality are concerned. Then two, I would like to pick a stronger point from her presentation where she said quality assurance is cyclic in nature, because that's what we thought in colleges. We thought after working on something and you get a success story, then you think you are done. But we have realized, even following her presentation, that you are never done. You can't relax. It is cyclic. You continue, you keep continuing. And I think that's very important to us as an experience. I beg to submit.
Thank you very much. Very good observations. It is a continuous process. I think somebody said yesterday that the road to quality assurance is always under construction. So that's the cyclic nature of quality assurance. And the question you asked is pertinent, so we shall continue discussing it as we go on. But the number in the room is explained because some colleagues have had another assignment, actually 2 assignments. So that's why we're a little bit few. Some of them will join us in the afternoon. So kindly bear with us with the numbers. But I think we're not doing badly compared to what we thought in the morning. Yeah, so some unity, a few members have gone for an in-house discussion. And then Arua, I think, is still at Shimoni, but coming to join us. Thank you very much. So let's move to, yes, please.
Another big factor affecting our performance in these colleges is these meetings that will never end. And as a principal, if you do not learn, I don't know what the principals are listening to me. If the principals do not learn to engage other members of staff and delegate, you will never sit down to supervise your institution. And that affects quality. Meetings here, there, you'll never sit down. What is happening now has actually reminded me about this. That I remember I worked as an assistant chief administrative officer. And these chief administrative officers are invited. You'll find in 1 week, they're about to 50 meetings. And I remember my boss telling us, as we had a team of administrative officers there, telling us that for me, in a year, I will only attend 2 meetings. One is that budget call called by the Ministry of Finance, where all administrative officers are invited to look at their budgets. I will attend that one. And then one other policy meeting. The others, gentlemen, be ready. I will be sending you. And there's no, I think I know all these hotels here because the man used to send us, and for him, he sat down. And I learned that principle. It's a very good one. The endless meetings.
And the power of delegation. Yes.
Thank you very much. You've talked about delegation. I remember I did my school practice in Shimon PTC. But one thing that I learned from Madam Dr. Beatrice Byakutaga, it was delegation skills. Most of the leaders, they don't have delegation skills. But for her, she had a lot of activities outside the college, but you could not recognize that whether she's there or not. Once she delegates, she doesn't follow to see what you are doing. So it's you to go back and make a report. So really, Doctor, I learned that one from you. And I know that when I become a leader, I will be using your approaches. Even my leader here, yes, I would also like to thank my principal because she also has some delegation skills. Thank you.
Building capacity, because when you delegate, you're building capacity, but also delegate with authority. Because if you delegate and you're controlling, she will not have learned what she learned. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Mine was a supplement to Doctor there. So what really affects quality in our institutions, especially in NTCs, because that is where I am, is multitasking. For example, at this moment, we are having a variety of activities, very many of them. So sometimes we don't actually attend to them properly. We do some of the activities haphazardly just for the sake of finishing, completing an activity. So yeah, for example, now, if it comes, we are going through a number of CPDs, and on top of those CPDs, there are a number of other activities that we are supposed to do online and physically. So sometimes we find ourselves not actually doing the things properly, and so we don't ensure quality. So there is need for us to actually schedule activities accordingly and we work them out properly. Thank you.
Yeah, very good. Good, you have answered partly, scheduling them, and then prioritizing, and so on. Of course, work will always be there. But I think yesterday we talked about the issue of understaffing, because understaffing increases the workload. And I think that's where people get overwhelmed by a lot of tasks. But prioritization is key. Members, I think allow me to invite our first present. Unfortunately, they look like the other group is not here. But we have shared this before. So let's share for the other stakeholders who have probably not been part of us. There are very few though, but let's hear and still reflect on the lessons. Doesn't stop us from sharing. And because we want to draw the lessons, maybe even after the dissemination workshop, we have also reflected on them and could have a different story to tell so that we know when we are going to roll out, what does it mean? So maybe we can start with Chibuli. Madam Allen, thank you. But meanwhile, she's setting up, we can say anything that you feel like reacting to. If there is anybody who wants to say something, this is a time. Yes, Ouma. Anything?
Yes, just as they say anything, I want to thank Dr. Josephine. Yeah, because to me, when I looked at whatever she was taking us through, I was seeing unity in picture, in what unity is trying to come up with to improve teacher education. Because at first when she was talking of the key findings, when they rolled out this program to the colleges, NTCs and colleges, you found out that people were doing their own things. There was no standard at all. Everybody was doing things the way maybe thought that they were right. But when you came in, you realigned all the process that is supposed to be done. So for me, that is actually a lot of things, what I'm seeing, aligning to what Unity is trying to uplift in teacher education. So I believe that if we cope up with this, we may improve better. Thank you.
Family one. What is the other one again? Amos. You have got very short ones. Amos. Very English. Thank you. Yes.
My name is Abenitwe Allen. Here we've come to share our experience on quality assurance. I remember when we had an external dissemination, we shared about it. But you know, quality assurance, you keep on assessing yourself. So we have come back here again. So that is the Chivuri Koa PTC Those of you who have ever gone there, it is the opposite shell. And that one is the background of Chiburi. Chiburi started in 1935 at Kasao. Then it was transferred to Chiburi Hill. When it reached there, late Prince Badru Kapunguru donated the land where it sits now. Chiburi, it is a Muslim-founded and government-aided institution offering pre-service and in-service teacher training programs for both PTE and ECD. Now it has added vocational studies, and it started in 2020. It was after training on quality assurance. So it has vision, mission, and core values. Vision is to become an exemplary institution in the training of competent teachers for the benefit of the Ugandan child. And the mission to provide quality education for the production of an all-round teacher for the benefit of the Ugandan child. Then those are core values: God-fearing. There you can put Allah-fearing, professionalism, quality, integrity, and tolerance. Then the status of Chibur Core PTC before quality assurance training. Play that video. Our experience is very fun and interesting. I remember when we went for that workshop, it was not physical. When we came back, we tried to sensitize members about quality assurance. They were like, now they are going to add more work on us. Quality cannot be managed by every person. But after developing that culture of internal quality assurance in our college, that statement, I think it was withdrawn. Now people have a positive attitude towards quality. Are you okay now? Before quality assurance. And for us, we were very contented and comfortable with that status. Yes.
Even poor people are very comfortable where they are.
Some are not satisfied.
Even actually happier than some of you.
Some are not satisfied, but for us, we are satisfied.
bursar because he has to finance us. So we considered other people to form that committee. Then that committee, it was oriented into their roles, and remember we were taught to using some tools. Dr. Josephine has called it toolkit, and they were customized by the college. We owned them. Then we selected some areas. Yesterday, Mr. Kansime showed 7 areas, but for us, we focused on few areas. We did not consider all of them at the same time. We sensitized other members about quality assurance. For example, IUI staff, because in Chibuli, these people, they operate from there. So we had to sensitize them about quality assurance. Yes, they were not fully involved, but at least we sensitized them on how to do things. Then several meetings with quality assurance implementers, especially the team that you see there. I would like to appreciate these members because sometimes we could disturb them. You know, like Dr. Josephine, even if you call her at midnight, her voice doesn't change. It remains like that. We could disturb you. Really, we appreciate Dr. Josephine.
Asante sana.
Then that one was an orientation meeting which we had at the college where every person was involved. Then we focused on major areas like governance and administration, teaching and learning, environment, student support and welfare, and facilities. Then on governance and administration, before quality assurance, there were no documented policies in place. Not from the government. Yeah, apart from those from the government, but there were no other policies documented there at the college. So after quality assurance, we formulate some of new policies like welfare policies, reporting policies, finance policies, and we involved even on rules and regulations. We involved even students. And it was their first time to be involved in formulating those policies. In fact, they were happy about it. Then we had our top administrators who were Madam Principal, Deputy Principal, DPP, and DPO. But after quality assurance, other top managers were added, and they are 15 in number. These people, they always sit on Monday. On every Monday, they have to sit in their meeting. Before we start our duties, we have to meet first. After meeting, and this meeting is chaired by everyone. If you chair the meeting on this Monday, the next Monday, another person chairs. Then, mission and vision were not displayed. They were there, but they were not displayed anywhere. For example, for my West in Chiburi in 2018, but I didn't know that even they had mission and vision. But after quality assurance, when they were talking about governance and administration, they talked about vision and mission and core values. It's when I went back to the college to find the mission and vision. But now they are displayed in all places. Even when you got classes on the dining wall, it is there. Then we had security officers, but they had no uniform. And it was very difficult for you to recognize or to identify that these are security officers at the gate. This Chibuli PTC, it has many people. Even these street kids, they can come and sit there. They have borders there. They have their stage. Recognizing these people, it was very difficult. But after quality assurance, Madam Principal bought uniforms for these people. when you look at that picture, that one is one of our classrooms. Mission and vision are displayed there now. Then there were no internal appointment letters given to the staff. They could work, they could claim about appointment letters, but they were nowhere to be seen. Until we went for quality assurance training, it's when Madam Principal and the team designed the appointment letters. Now, before you start your duties every year, they have to give you at least an appointment letter. Then there were no rewards given to the staff members, especially outstanding staff members. But I'm happy that the other year, 2021, we had a party and outstanding performers were given gifts. And during that time, I got a gift. But this year, I did not get, I don't know what happened. So staff members are given rewards now. So you put all your effort knowing that at the end of the year you will have to gauge. And one of the speakers yesterday told us at least that you need to reward people. You need to motivate them. So for us at Chiburu now we are motivated. That is our principle teaching. Before I go to teaching and learning,